In today's video, I'm going to be going over some very helpful settings in Sea of Thieves that you might not have known about. If you find any of these helpful, make sure to drop a like on the video. If you haven't already, make sure to have a keybind set for your food selection and for your throwables. I, for example, have 3 for my food, and I have C for chuck, because I chuck them in the enemy's face. Next, we have input. By default, your scoped in sensitivity is really low, so it makes aiming down sights very difficult. So do yourself a favor and put all those sliders all the way up to 10 and watch how much better you get at hitting your shots. Next, we have the gameplay tab. Now these 4 are kind of a personal preference. You can turn them on, turn them off depending on how you feel. Now this setting right here is very important. If you scroll all the way down, you go to server authoritative hit markers. What this does is it actually only shows hit markers when the server is registering them. Normally you might have a hit marker in the middle of a fight, so you take your sword out, you go in for the kill, but for some reason they don't die. Well, the problem is the game told you that you got a hit marker, but you actually didn't. With this setting, you're completely avoiding that little bit of misinformation, and you're guaranteed that you're not going to be making bad decisions based on faulty information. And now we go down to the HUD. First things first, if you scroll down to banners, it's highly recommended that you switch from cinematic to slimline, because whenever you come across an island, the cinematic banners actually cover up a lot of information on your screen. For example, they cover up your health and your ammo. And if you're in the middle of a battle and you're approaching an island, and that bit of information is hidden from you for a few seconds, that could actually end up resulting in your death, which is not good. The next thing is, if you scroll down a little further, crew status icons. You want to turn this on. Now what this does is it actually gives you a little bit more information about what your crew is doing without them having to communicate that to you directly. So when you have the setting on, there's going to be a little icon near your teammate's name that shows what they're doing. For example, if they're fixing a hole in the ship, or if they're bucketing, or if they're fighting, or if they're dying, you will know based on those little icons. Now these next 2 is another personal preference setting. It's a bunch of information that I don't need to know, and it clutters my screen for no reason, so I turn this off, and I recommend you do as well. Now we go down to the graphics. First things first, if you haven't done this already, you definitely should increase your FOV all the way to 90. The default is set to, I believe, 78, which is not bad, but 90 gives you just so much more information on your screen at all times. It's actually game changing. Next, I recommend you turn off blur and screen shake. Now these again are personal preference, it's kind of just visual mostly, but the screen shake, for example, actually shakes your screen every time you fire your cannon, which makes it a bit harder to see where you're firing. And now we also have the rats setting. Now the thing that's unique about this setting is that the rats actually respond to how much water there is on your boat. So if there's a lot of water on your boat, they will actually run all the way to your deck. And other than the fact that there's already an audio cue for your boat filling up with water, this is just an additional bit of information that will potentially save you from sinking. Now if we scroll all the way down, we have last 2 settings in graphics. We have the high contrast X marks the spot and the high contrast hit marker. I've tested both of these. What they do is basically make the hit markers white and the X marks the spot white as well, which I've seen a lot of people use, especially YouTubers and streamers. I don't know why they choose to do that, because first, it's not even as visually appealing as the red X. And for the hit markers, you can't tell the difference between a normal hit marker and a kill hit marker. And that bit of information is kind of important to me, so I prefer to be able to see a red X anytime I kill someone than a white one that looks exactly the same as a normal hit marker that is just doing damage. Now we go down to audio settings. First things first, you're gonna want to max out your sound effects volume and your musical cue volume. And you also want to set proximity chat to be directional. That way, if there's someone speaking to you, you can actually tell from which direction they are, which is very nice, especially if that person is actually trying to cause harm to you or your boat. And finally, we have the language settings. Now here you want to enable speech to text and speech translation. What this will do is it will actually transcribe what people are saying into the chat for you, which is great because sometimes you can't actually hear a player because they're a little too far away and you have your audio lowered. But the game assumes that you can hear them, so it will transcribe what they're saying for you and you'll be able to see it in the chat. And with that, you'll be able to know that, oh, there's a player near me talking somewhere. And the way the translation one works is basically listen to what players are saying. If they're speaking in a different language, it will translate it for you and transcribe it in the chat. It's not that great, but it's better than nothing. And that covers all the settings. If this video was helpful, make sure to drop a like and subscribe for future content. And if you have a moment, check out my previous videos.